All right, here we go. Welcome to another episode of the Non-Victimation Podcast. Today I have a good friend of mine, Anthony Martinez, the founder of 210-2A.
Right.
I say good friend because we've been communicating with over social media for a while.
Yeah.
This is the first time we've actually sat in person.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I'm glad to have you here and hope that
Appreciate it.
we can help educate people and teach them some things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So if I remember right, the company actually originated like in Texas, and then you
Yes.
moved here.
Yeah.
So
So we are a Texas-originated company,
mhm,
based out of San Antonio. We moved here to Arizona because, as much as it doesn't pay the bills just yet, right?
right?
I was working IT at the time.
Mhm.
So 210 is the San Antonio area code.
Oh,
Uh, 2A obviously is our glorious Second Amendment, and then we like to tag on self-defense training and education, right? Because in the realm of what we do, Second Amendment, CCW, stuff like that is self-defense and the training that goes along with it.
right.
Um, but yeah, man. So
Nice.
it's a little.
Uh, Also, you had mentioned before we started that you were a former Marine,
Oh yeah.
and that they taught you to be a nerd, which I thought was kind of funny.
So yeah, once a Marine, always a Marine, right?
Right.
So like I like to consider myself a civilian Marine, right?
Right.
I don't wear the uniform all the time, but
It,
I earned that title. You know what
yeah.
I
There
mean?
you go.
Yeah, man. So I was in the Marine Corps from 2008 to 2018, so I had a solid decade.
Mhm.
Um, I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan, for roughly about
Oh wow.
almost 3 years. Then 5 years in California at Camp Pendleton,
Hmm.
so glorious California, like San Diego County.
Right.
Um, and then finished out my time in Cherry Point, North Carolina, man. So a little
Oh
town
wow.
called Havelock. Yeah. Have you
Cool.
ever been in North Carolina?
I've been to South Carolina, but not north.
Okay. So like
Yeah.
Myrtle Beach,
Yeah.
the place everyone goes to.
Right.
So Havelock is probably about like an hour away from Jacksonville.
Okay.
So, um, just to kind of give you like a perspective of like how far that
Right.
it's like I said, it's a small town.
There you go.
um, yeah, man. But so I joined right out of high school.
Mhm.
Um, because at the time I was late to the game as far as everyone's like, oh, everyone's like, have you done your ACTs yet? You apply for college? I was like, when was I supposed to do that?
Yeah.
It's like everyone's like, oh man, I did that last year. I was like, senior year, and I'm like, I didn't do any of it. I
Yeah.
was like, geez. So I'm like way behind the curve.
Hmm.
But the funny thing is, like the way I like signed up
Hmm.
is I got that little flyer in the mail.
Okay.
It's like, hey, you want a free T-shirt? Like fill this out and send it back in.
Yeah.
And not knowing it was that one flyer specifically was for the people who were in college who wanted to
Uh-huh.
become officers.
Oh, nice.
So they called me once I guess they got it.
Hmm.
And they're like, oh, we're gonna go ahead and transfer you to our enlisted side of the recruiting office. That way they can talk to you about like what you can do and blah blah blah. So then after that, it kind of just like took off from there.
Uh-huh.
I signed up, raised my hand, was in the DEP program, so like the delayed entry program for about
Okay.
a year,
Right.
my senior year,
Hmm.
and then I had originally was supposed to be leaving for boot camp the end of summer, so like July, August time, right closer to my birthday.
Hmm.
But then they're like, "Hey, we have some spots open, and you're close to being that full year in the debt program. If not, you're gonna have to reswear and everything else like that." I was like, "I don't want to do that again. I already did it once, you
Yeah.
know." Like, so I was like, "All right, fine, just put me on the next spot you got," and
Right.
I left, man. So June 23rd was when I first stepped on those yellow footprints, man. It started my journey, my 3 month journey to become a United States Marine.
There you go.
Yeah.
Um, so how long were you enlisted total?
So it was like shy of 10, so it was
Okay.
like 9 and 10 months.
Okay.
I just rounded up to 10 because
Yeah.
yeah, close enough, um, but it's funny is like after I joined, right? Like I probably about it was 2010
Hmm.
when I first started talking to my wife, not knowing that her birthday is the same day I stepped on the yellow footprints.
Oh.
So
Right
so
on.
now every time June 23rd comes up, I was like, I have two big moments of my life that happened on this day, but most importantly, it's my wife.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so I was like the day I became a Marine, and then the day my wife was born.
Yeah.
So,
There you go. That's pretty awesome. So like how long after that was it that you started 210?
um, to be honest, I didn't start 210 till after I got out, man.
Hmm.
So again, the Marine Corps taught me to be a nerd. So,
Right.
I became what was called a tactical switchboard operator. So I
Okay.
dealt a lot with working with phones, like two-wire telephony and stuff like that, like old analog phones.
Hmm.
Then technology evolved to like PoE and IP phones, stuff like that,
Okay.
like Cisco phones. Like Cisco is
Hmm.
like a big brand
Right.
that a lot of IT uses. So we used a lot of Cisco technology as far as like phones and stuff like that. And then I just carried that on after I got out in 2018. So,
Right on.
so I dabbled in what 15 about 15 years in IT until yeah, until recently. I told you I switched into corrections.
Right.
Um, but it wasn't until I became an instructor at the end of 2021.
Hmm.
Because so all right, so from 2018, I ended up leaving North Carolina, came back to California, lived there for 2 years, and then for another 2 years after that is when we were living in Texas.
Hmm.
So that's when 2021 came about. And when I decided, I was like, I want to become an instructor because in Texas, we have constitutional carry, we have
Hmm.
open carry and stuff like that. So everyone, a lot of people say like everyone wants to be like Texas and stuff like that, but
Right.
um,
It's true, you know.
especially right now, how they're
Yeah.
holding strong and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I was like, like I want to be a part of something, like,
Hmm.
but a part of me also was like something always felt like it was missing.
Hmm.
And being a Marine, we always have a rifle across our chest or a pistol on our hip. So we always used to get like, no, I don't want to say belittled, but we always would be like accountability,
Hmm.
accountability of your rifle, accountability of your weaponry.
Right.
If not, hey, like you're about to get the hammer
Yeah.
because that's thousands of dollars worth of equipment.
Hmm.
So I got out and I was like, I just felt like something was missing. So I
Hmm.
was like, so I bought my first like several firearms and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what, like let me get into this, man. Let me be a part of something, or let me do something to kind of help make a change, kind of help people understand that firearms aren't scary.
Right.
Like if they're used properly, like they're phenomenal tools for self defense.
Hmm.
Let alone just an outlet to have fun and
Hmm.
kind of de stress.
Right.
Um, so 2021, the end of like it was December. I became an instructor. And then shortly after that is when because I refused to get the jab,
Hmm.
I got let go, and then I had to find another job. And
Right.
luckily, a company in an IT company here in Phoenix kind of picked me up and was like, "Hey, like you put in your waiver now. As soon as you come on board, like no harm, no fuss."
Right.
So I worked there for about 2 years. So it wasn't until this year and the end of January was when they let me go.
Okay.
Just because they didn't have any spots on new contracts for me. So
Hmm.
it's an easy way to put it.
Really?
And then after that, I did a small stint in high school security, and then, like I said, I started working corrections.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So the whole idea of like not getting or taking the vaccine
Mhm.
and it being mandated, I think that was a really terrible idea
Yeah.
because there were so many people that they let go for that, and then like they realized, well, we're losing a lot of like our really
Yep.
valuable people,
Absolutely.
and like tried to force them to come back. It's like, fuck you. Why did you make us
Yeah.
take the shot in the
Exactly.
first place?
Exactly.
It's like that was a stupid idea,
Especially
you know?
for the U.S. military, man, they let go of a lot of people,
Yeah,
and then they tried to like, in a sense, buy them back.
right.
By saying like, hey, well, we'll give you this bonus if you come back for us. They're like, no, dude,
Yeah.
like there's some people that only did 2 years,
Hmm.
and they're like, just because they refused to take the vaccine, like they're like, hey, we gotta let you go. It's like,
Right.
so they didn't get to fully experience like their time in the military. So when I was in, I used to tell Marines all the time, like, because they'd be stuck on their first duty station being like the epitome of what the Marine Corps was.
Mhm.
And I used to be like, no, dude, like re-enlist, get out, go to another duty station, go to Japan, go to Hawaii. Like
Mhm.
your job can be used in so many other places than just right here.
Right.
And they're like, I don't know, I don't know. I was like, y'all are dumb. Like if y'all don't listen to me, like that's your fault, dude. Like
Right.
you're gonna be those guys that get out of the Marines or get out of the military and are gonna talk trash and say like, oh, like don't join the military because it was garbage. They did this to me. Like you're
Right.
gonna have nothing but the negative stuff to say instead of
Yeah.
the positive.
Right.
So every time I talk to everybody, they're like, oh, how was it? I was like, man, I freaking love the Marine Corps.
Mhm.
Like, and the biggest thing is like, oh, would you go back? I was like, you know what? Parts of me would, and parts of me wouldn't. It's like, and you'll hear this a lot if you haven't heard it already. Is that
Uh-huh.
people love the clowns, they don't love the circus.
Okay.
So like we love the people that we deployed with that we call our brothers and sisters,
Right.
but we never liked the way that shit ran.
Right.
So that's
And
why that's
and that's only becoming more and more so.
mhm,
Like right now, I mean, like I love the military.
mhm,
I value the people that join it, and at the same time, I really have to caution people. Well, I shouldn't say it that way. Um, I think that people should really be aware of what they're getting into
mhm,
if they're joining the military. I think that it's really important to like, so I kind of go back and forth on this. I think it's good to like join the military and have skin in the game and be a part of the country,
mhm.
like do something for the country, not just live here and,
Yeah, to
and
have
reap all
a
the
pride in
benefits.
saying like, hey, I
And
served my country.
yeah,
Like that's what it used to be about,
right,
right? Nowadays, people are just like don't even want to touch it.
right. Because you have all of these people in higher places that are trying to include the diversity, equity, and inclusion bullshit, which is just another form of racism,
Mhm.
and discrimination. They're mandating things like the vaccines, and nobody's telling you what these vaccines are.
Yeah,
There's a whole that's a whole other discussion. But there's so many like negative things that take away from the experience of just being proud to like serve in
yeah.
the military. It's like I don't know. It's is it worth it now?
Such a hard question, man. Like
Yeah,
it's because it's changed a lot, man.
right.
It's changed a lot since I've been in. Since a lot of even people like who've only been in like a year or two, like it's changed. It's changed a lot.
Mhm.
With the whole woke agenda they try and push in there too. All the woke training, all the um gender affirming like surgeries that now they're producing, right?
Right,
They're allowing, not producing.
right.
Because I remember when I was in like, so I had LASIK. I got LASIK surgery while I was in.
Nice.
You were technically allowed one cosmetic surgery like your whole time while you're in.
Okay.
Females obviously got size adjustments. Um,
Right.
for me, I was like, I didn't know at first, but then I was like, well, dang, like if I could have gotten other stuff, like I would have rather gotten my eyes fixed, right? Because I was
Right.
deploying with like contacts and sandstorms, so I'm getting sand in my contacts and my eyes. I'm
Right.
like, it's the worst thing ever. So the best thing I could have done was get LASIK, right? But I wouldn't have thought of anything else to get, right?
Yeah.
But the fact is, like, I found out afterwards, I was like, man, like, so many people could abuse that. And then nowadays, now that's what people are doing, right? People are using that cosmetic surgery to transform,
Right.
So it's it's crazy, man.
Yeah, it is. The whole thing is just insane. The people at the top that are making these decisions, and I don't even understand why they're making them. I
Mhm.
mean, I understand like on a political side, there a lot of that has to do with they're trying to get votes and they're
Yes.
trying to do all the things. But when it comes to the military, I don't see the benefit of it. It's like
Hmm.
you're trying to defend the country. You're trying to do what's right and
Exactly.
make sure that we're strong and that we don't get invaded or that we don't get whatever. So where is the benefit? So I guess a different way to look at it, it's like, where DEI doesn't exist? In the NFL and the NBA. And why is that? Because those are like organizations that are there to make money, right? So there's no way that they're going to like stop doing what they're doing and incorporate all these stupid rules about DEI, and accept players that aren't up to par or that can't do the job and
Yeah,
start to
because you
lose
have
money.
you have to like it's like the combine, like
Yeah,
you have to like hit like a certain level of like proficiency. If not, like not gonna take you,
right.
right? So
there's no way that those organizations are going to lose huge amounts of money, not to mention all of the viewership and everything else,
I think
just to have those rules.
I think with the military, it's more of a refocusing that money in the wrong places.
Hmm.
Like instead of actually working on the training, getting us the good equipment, because we used to say that the Marine Corps always got the hand me down stuff.
Right.
But we got the job done. You know
Right.
what I mean? So, uh, yeah, man, yeah, just I think there needs to be a strong readjustment, is what it is.
Yes. And it's one of those things that I hate to think about, but I, I think that on some level, the only way we're ever going to snap out of the bullshit that we're in
Mhm.
is for something really catastrophic to happen, and I don't
I just
want
hope
that
that
to
that's.
happen,
I just hope by
you
then
know?
it's not too late, man.
Yeah. So like thinking about 9/11, it's like nobody would have wished for 9/11 to happen,
Yeah.
right? But there isn't a single thing, you know, or post World War II that unified the country as significantly as that did,
Mhm.
you know, where everybody was flying American flags, everybody was on the same page,
Yep.
everybody had the same agenda. It's like we are going to unify and we're going to go kick the shit out of the guys that attacked us.
I think they tried to force that with like the Ukraine war,
Yeah, and
with
it's
a
not
with a
working.
proxy war that we never wanted to be in,
Hmm.
right? Um, because you can see that plain as day, like like in the form of democracy, we need to
Right,
get together and help Ukraine win this war. I was like, for what? Like we were never in this war. And
right.
then, oh, conspiracy wise, right?
Hmm.
Joe had his agenda with his son
Yeah.
out there,
Hmm.
so that's the only reason why we're technically in it, man.
Right. Yeah, there's some political and probably a lot of monetary gain that's
Mhm.
happening for politicians.
Yeah,
It's the only reason why we're involved with that. The thing that just recently, Biden made the decision that they're going to allow our weapons, U.S. weapons, to be used against military targets in Russia. It's like from the very beginning, you said we would not get involved. We're there to
yeah,
support them and help them,
exactly.
but we're not going to put our troops there. We're not going to use our weapons.
Doing the buyback programs in
Yeah,
certain states, like, hey, like,
yeah,
give us your ammo and guns because we're gonna send it across the
yeah.
ocean.
It's like, but that's not what they're doing.
Yeah,
They're just systematically, it's just like a lot of things that when they're trying to push an agenda, they just take it in very small increments.
mhm,
How far can we go before something breaks?
yeah,
So, I just hate to see those sorts of things happening.
absolutely.
I have so many problems with the Biden administration. It's not just him. I mean, he's his own fucking train wreck, but
Hmm.
it's not him. It's the whole administration that is making all these decisions.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of them probably don't even involve him. That's just my own belief, you
I
know?
mean, I would believe that too, right? I don't. My wife likes to say that he's just a puppet, right?
Yeah,
He's just the face that like this is who to blame
right.
whenever it all goes to shit.
Yeah,
Um, but there's more people behind the scenes that make all the calls and push the buttons and stuff like that.
yeah.
So,
So, his yeah, you could just see so many things that are going on and it's really hard to deal with. And the thing that really bothers me isn't just that those things are happening,
mhm,
that so much of it is being suppressed by the mainstream media. So most people don't even understand what's going on. They're only ever hearing this one small piece of the puzzle,
mhm,
you know, and then they're basing all of the decisions, all of like their voting decisions, all of their life decisions on that. It's like you don't understand what's going on.
yeah,
You're not seeing the whole picture because if you did, you probably wouldn't be doing what you're doing,
mhm,
you know. I've watched interviews where somebody is like debating uh, somebody who's obviously a Biden supporter, and you can hear every word that comes out of their mouth is the exact same thing that you'll hear from the mainstream
yes,
media. It's like they
exactly.
don't even have a real opinion. They don't have any details or facts that they can point to. It's just this broad sort of, well, Trump is evil. Trump is gonna, he wants to be a dictator. Trump is a racist, and all
Yeah, the
these
same
other
thing.
things.
It was.
You know.
I'm pretty sure you've seen it. That small clip where station by station they start putting them in together,
Hmm.
and it's like they're all saying the same
Yeah,
thing over and
exactly.
over again.
Yeah,
And I remember I showed my dad that once, and he's still to this day he still watches the news. I'm like, Dad, like, why do you watch the news? Like, I showed you the clip already. Like,
right.
they're all pre-programmed to say the same thing over and over again.
Yeah,
Um, and showing him that clip. Like at first he's like, no way. And then like I was like, here it is, Dad. Like it's right here.
Right?
And but like every day he's up. He watches almost every single newscast. Like he'll wake up early in the morning sometimes. If not, he's up all the way till midnight watching the midnight news. I'm like, why do you do that to yourself? Like,
Yeah,
like it's gonna be either the same thing. He's like, oh, it's like, why aren't you watching it? He's like, you need to know what's going on locally. I was like, if I find out locally, it's gonna be shared on social media
right.
because someone's gonna try and get like that first 100K like likes on that
Yeah,
video or something like that. So I trust social media more over the news
yeah.
than anything like that.
Well, the other part of that is that the social media people aren't being paid by pharmaceutical companies.
Mhm.
They're not being driven by the current administration. You know, you don't have people from the FBI and the DOJ like showing up and saying, "Hey, we want you to suppress this information."
Yeah.
And
If not, they come and be like, hey, we saw this video. Like, we need you to take it down.
right, you know, there's so much proof now. You know, this is not just conspiracy anymore.
Yeah.
That, you know, they literally suppressed information before the 2020 election.
Mhm.
You know, Hunter Biden's laptop, for instance, was, you know, called uh, Russian disinformation, you know, and they went on and on. They had 50, I think 52 FBI agents like attest that this was like disinformation, that the laptop didn't exist.
Dude, what baffles me is like how all these people can still follow that same lie
Hmm.
and then not expect to be called out or at least get in trouble for it. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it's almost like if there's like a line of people that are just like, you know what, fine, like I'll follow suit, not knowing the consequences that are gonna come later. And
Uh-huh.
then like more and more people just keep it's like a what is it like a revolving door, like it
Yeah.
just keeps like spinning and spinning.
Right.
It's like, dude, like
Yeah.
how do you like how many it makes you wonder how many people are how deep it is in a
Hmm.
sense, right? So
Right.
it's just like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. The deep state is a real thing, you
Yeah.
know, and kind of that same idea that we were talking about. Like they just keep pushing and pushing to see what they can get away with.
Yeah.
And things that like 50 years ago nobody would ever think of, let alone do out openly in the public,
Hmm.
they do.
Yeah.
You know, Nancy Pelosi is an excellent example of that. We have proof, all kinds of proof that she's insider trading,
Hmm.
and yet
Oh
nothing's
yeah,
happening to
yeah.
her. You know, it's just blatant. It's
Hmm.
like, how did you go from having this much money to this much money?
Yep.
You know, making trades that even what's his name? Uh, Snowball. What's that guy's name?
Snowball.
Uh, the no. He wrote the book called The Snowball. Uh, Investor Hathaway, Berkshire Hathaway.
Oh, the snowball effect.
Yeah,
We actually do that in our finances at home.
yeah.
So we'll take one of the smaller bills, uh, get that away, but everything we put towards that, we move into the next one. Yeah, Ramsey.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's David Ramsey.
That's not the person I'm thinking of, but yeah, he's like, I just cannot remember his name. Anyway, so he, so he's like a really educated investor. He's made probably billions of dollars,
Mhm.
you know, over his lifetime, and she is outperforming him. It's like, how does that work? You
Yeah.
know, so, so just
Huh.
stuff like that. It's pretty obvious, and nobody is doing anything.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, that's the guy.
Oh, you
Yeah,
said Berkshire Hathaway. I was like, yeah. I was
yeah.
like, well, that's Warren Buffett, but I don't think he talked about the snowball
Well,
effect.
no, they did an autobiography on him, and that
Oh,
was the name of the
no.
book, is The Snowball.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha.
So, but anyway, so yeah, Warren Buffett is being outperformed by Nancy Pelosi in her trading, which is just
That
unreal. That doesn't happen all
that
by
doesn't
itself.
sound right.
Yeah. So, um, and then you have the current attorney general who's refusing to give information about an interview that Biden did. They provided the transcripts, but they won't provide the actual audio or the video.
Mhm.
You know, even though Congress has subpoenaed it
Yeah.
and he's held in contempt of Congress,
Mhm.
the DOJ is saying, well, that doesn't matter. We're just not going to prosecute him anyway.
Listen,
Like,
yeah, yeah. Like, well, we're talking about Fauci, right?
no, not Fauci. Again, can't
Fauci
remember his name.
just became contempt
Yeah,
before too.
yeah,
So
right. Now, Fauci is another one that definitely needs to be.
held accountable.
prosecuted to the
Yeah.
fullest extent. He needs to spend the rest of his life in prison.
Mhm.
But Mayorkas is the one I was thinking of.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
forget that dude.
yeah. Uh, so yeah, I mean, it's just like we can just kind of keep going on with this. There's
Yeah.
more and more and more
Oh yeah, there's so
things
many
that
people, so
need to be
many.
prosecuted and aren't. And then you've got somebody like Trump who they couldn't find anything. He hasn't done anything.
I
So they,
don't get why they're trying to go after him so hard. Like they keep making up all this like BS stuff, and it's like,
Mhm.
why? Like, why
Right,
are you wasting so much time and effort into trying to take down a man that's you're not going to take down because
right,
you can't solidify any of your proof, right?
right.
But then yet it's smoke and mirrors.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
because that's the only way that they can win.
mhm.
Um,
He's gonna snap his fingers.
yeah. And like I listen to the things that the Democrats talk about Trump, and they really try to paint him as like a wannabe dictator, saying that you have the idiot De Niro standing out saying, "Oh, if he gets into power, he is never leaving,"
I
you know.
love, I love, I love those people, famous people that
Uh-huh,
say all that stuff, that trash talk him,
right.
and they're like, "Oh, if he wins, like, I'm leaving or I'm denouncing my U.S. It's like, good, like,
Yeah,
get out of here, bro. Like, we don't need you here.
there you go.
And if anything, like the singer of Green Day, man, he's like, I'm gonna leave if Trump leaves. Like, good, bro. Like, no one really cares about you anymore, anyway, bro. Like,
Right.
you had your time, like when I was in high school, and
Mhm.
then, you're not that good anymore.
Yeah, right. Uh,
um. Oh, there was something else I was gonna say. It slipped my mind. But I love seeing videos when people were like hardcore liberal or Democrat, and then like they tried so hard for like almost like it seems like their whole life that they were just like, oh, Trump's a dictator, this and that, and then now like you see them being recorded, they're like, hey, Mr. President, I'm sorry, like I believe the lies, and that was my fault. He's like, but I really hope you pull through. I hope you make it, and I want to see you as our next president.
right.
Those are the videos that get me happy, bro. Those are the videos where I'm like, we saved another one.
Right. Um, so I feel like we've kind of strayed away from our talking
Oh
point,
yeah,
which
a little
was
bit, right?
like, so like when you started 210, like
Okay.
kind of what was the overall like goal? Like what you're trying to accomplish?
Um, proper firearms education and training, man.
Right.
Especially when I moved out here, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, the biggest message I got from locals
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, we're in the wild, wild west, man," or like, "We have constitutional carry, like we don't need CCWs." I was like, I beg to differ, man.
Yeah.
You know. So when I knew it was kind of crazy, like being a USCC instructor, right? Like you get welcomed to a family. A lot of people
Mhm.
that I talk to, and I don't, and when I say this, like I don't mean to like trash talk the NRA, right? Because like
Mhm.
the NRA was kind of like our staple, like our the founding father of like what we kind of do, right?
Right.
Um, but when I started hearing that the NRA kind of just like you take their class and then they kind of just like figure it out,
Hmm.
I was like, man, that kind of sounds like piss poor in my opinion, man. So like when I became an instructor back in Texas, I was like, dude, like this is awesome, man. Like my instructor was like, hey, dude, I do webinars to kind of help you get started. Like if you're having troubles, like you know, hop on. Let's figure out what we can do to help you grow, man. I love that I joined a community of people that want you to grow. And as soon as I moved out to Arizona and told them like, hey, I need to get, technically this certificate to send to AZDPS so I can be official on the books, right?
Hmm.
So I did the supplemental class and from there, I was like, I sent in I got my little paper saying like, "Hey, I'm a certified instructor in the eyes of the AZDPS."
Hmm.
And from there, almost not I want to say almost immediately, but then the USCC instructor support called me.
Hmm.
They're like, "Hey, like, how are you doing, man? We want to know if we can help you out." And I was like, "Dude,
Yeah.
this is awesome, bro." Like, what? And again, talking back to some other NRA instructors, they're like, "Dude, like, I didn't get any of that, bro. I didn't get
Right.
no polo, no books, no nothing." And I was like, "Dude, that sucks." But at
Right.
the same time, I'm like, dude, like. maybe you should consider becoming a USCC instructor.
Hmm.
Some did, some didn't. Some were like, I don't want to spend the money again. I was like, hey man, by all means, like, hey, you do you, bro. Like,
Right.
I'm just saying, like, hey, I got better treated from what other people are saying to me that they got treated from them.
Right.
And at that point too, even now, freaking Wayne Lapierre is getting got indicted for like taking 4 million from his own company.
Really.
You didn't hear about that, dude?
No.
Yeah, dude. So supposedly he was taking money from his own company, no longer being the CEO, and using it for like personal expenses. So
Wow.
he got indicted, and then he has to pay all that back. So I was like, dude, like, it's kind of shady. I
Right.
was like, right. So every time, like, because one of our slides is Wayne, kind of like with his pistol, and it's got some words, but the thing at the bottom says, the only thing that stops a good guy or a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, right?
Hmm.
Which is 100% a fact. But every time I go into that slide, I was like, hey, like regardless of the spotlight that's on the internet right now, like they're our foundation.
Right.
So I never like talk trash on them, but at the same time, like I'll openly be like, hey, like regardless of the spotlight that's on them right now, is like Wayne set the standard for us, and like his statement here is true, is factual.
Right.
Because the last thing we want in a self defense situation is have to wait for the cavalry to come across the hill
Right.
like 30 minutes to an hour later. Um, by the time then, 30 minutes, they could be gone. We could be hurt. Someone could be on the verge of dying, and that's
Hmm.
not, you know, that's not what I want, right? I'm
Right.
pretty sure that's not what you want
No,
either.
not at all.
So, last thing we want is to be victims ourselves.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, so after that, I became an instructor and I started reaching out to other instructors out here. And I was like, man, like, hey, can I piggyback off of y'all? Can I kind of see what it's like out here to teach
Hmm.
certain classes so I can understand like my craft, understand the students I'd be teaching. There's only two people that actually talk to me as far as like, hey man, yeah, go ahead, come out to one of our classes. Um, one of them was actually based out there in like Florence. Like he has his own shop and everything like that, but I hardly see him post any classes. And then the other one, I'm pretty sure you know him with his billboards of $5 classes and stuff like that.
Right.
I'd rather not say his name, but
Okay.
um, I don't know. I guess it just kind of like hits me like a little like, dude, how can you sell like sell your class for something as little as like $5, right?
Right.
Like, so I just, dude, my first class, bro, I was like, it was completely free, bro. I had three, no, four ladies attend that class.
Hmm.
Um, one who seemed, or she came up to me saying like, hey, like I kind of had an incident before, so I'm kind of a little weary and scared of guns, but like your class was phenomenal.
Hmm.
One lady who said she already took a CCW class,
Hmm.
and by the time she came to class, she actually showed me her CCW. She just got it.
Hmm.
I was like, hey, well, I was like, here's what I'll do for you. I was like, you take my class in full, and then you let me know how you thought, and then you pay me accordingly.
Hmm.
And then I told her, I was like, hey, normally my class is this, but for people who already have their CCWs, I knock it back this much.
Right.
And then she paid me what I told her, like, technically my class was. She's like, I actually enjoyed it, and I felt like I got way more out of your class than I did
Right.
the other people.
Hmm.
Which is one reason why I love like the USCCA curriculum,
Hmm.
because it's well thought out and pretty thorough,
Right.
as far as like whenever teaching it, right?
Hmm.
Um, and then the other two were just like local ladies that live there in Coolidge.
Hmm.
But yeah, man, that's kind of how I first like kicked it all off, man.
Yeah.
Um, I do all my classes out of the VFW in Coolidge.
Okay.
So we pretty much, we donate money every now and then from classes back to the post. There's another organization I help out called the Veterans of Arizona City.
Hmm.
They just became a nonprofit organization.
Oh,
I
nice.
do classes out there from time to time,
Hmm.
but mainly we do. I like to consider South Valley,
Right.
Coolidge, South Valley. So we do Coolidge, Casa Grande, Arizona City, um, and we were gonna start dabbling into like Queen Creek, Santan area.
Hmm.
Just got to find like a good location because that's probably like the hard part.
Yeah.
Is finding a good spot to repetitively do classes.
Hmm.
Luckily, because we have a good relationship with my VFW, like they're like, "Hey, you can do classes here as long as you're bringing people in the door. That's all that matters."
There you go.
Kind of basically kind of bring the shop to light to being
Mhm.
like, "Hey, like here's where veterans like to hang out. If you want to donate, by all means, like it could always sprucing up the place."
Right.
Um, but one of the biggest things that like one of the big differences from Texas and Arizona, there's no shooting requirement here.
Hmm.
So one thing that we incorporate in all of our classes is shooting time.
Hmm.
And that's nothing to go against, like not to kind of like be like, hey, our class is better than yours.
Hmm.
But we felt that a lot of the students we do get,
Hmm.
that's what they're looking for.
Right.
That's what they want because a lot of the times we get first time gun owners, first time shooters, or like kind of novice shooters that they're just like, hey, like I never really got proper training. Like will your class do that? And I'm like, absolutely it will.
Okay.
Because and I'm sure you're an instructor, right? So
Right.
like we cover everything from like front side picture and everything, like
Mhm.
proper grip and everything. So
Yeah.
like what what other way to not take people to the range also if you're going to teach them like, hey, how to hold it, like let's get them like a couple shots in, right? So like
Right.
so even though like the USCCA curriculum has like a shooting requirement, we or a shooting portion,
Hmm.
we kind of take that as a kind of target practice. So we'll
Right.
set out several targets, mainly just kind of 5 yards out, and we'll have them like kind of like here, like let's work on your grip. Let's actually get you to hit the target,
Right.
not just take you out to the range and kind of just like have fun. Like no, like we're gonna turn this into an actual like almost in a sense like a small private session
Hmm.
because that's what we'll do. Like almost like so we have a team of 5 right now.
Hmm.
Um, we have John Sarita. He works for Pinal County Sheriff's Office. um, Chris, my good buddy Chris, he just became an instructor with Josh's last class.
Okay.
Um, and I told Josh too. I was like, because Josh told me how he did. Because first day was a little rough, but Chris loved it at the end, man. And I told him I was like, hey man, like I told Josh I was like, hey bro, if there's any class that I want my instructors to go to, it's yours, bro.
Right.
Because I know you're gonna fucking teach them good.
Hmm.
Then we have Jalen. He's gonna be the next one to take the instructor course. He's a Marine also. So we got 2 Marines on staff. Chris is a massage therapist. And then Mufti, he actually works with me. He's in corrections too.
Hmm.
He's actually one of our like the business trainers for corrections in our company.
Right.
But he's been like 20, 30 years in corrections.
Wow.
Um, in teaching fire. He's an NRA instructor too.
Okay.
So he brings that perspective in. So usually a lot of times he'll come out and help me be my RSO and stuff like that for my pistol courses and stuff
Hmm.
like that. Um but that was the big thing, man, is giving people the range time that we felt that they deserved that they
Right.
weren't getting from these $5 classes.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the fact is that people are out here selling people more on self defense tools rather
Hmm.
than the actual education and training that they came here and they were looking for, right?
Right.
It's cool, it's all fine and dandy for people to, at least in my opinion, to understand like the laws, like, hey, this is the do's and don'ts, but there's more beyond that, right? Like the use of force,
Right.
stuff like that. Understanding that, hey, there's a fine line in the sand of where you can and cannot draw your firearm, right?
Hmm.
Just because there's posted signs up there saying you can't carry in there, that's not everything. You
Right.
know what I mean? And that's kind of what we felt separates us, but at the same time, kind of why I felt what we could bring to the table here in Arizona.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. I think that the whole idea of if we have constitutional carry, you can carry a gun without actually having to go through that course,
mhm,
right? That is what it is.
yes,
But that's the same thing as saying, well, there's a plane here, and you could literally just go jump in it and then go fly it if you
go
want
fly.
to.
Yeah,
If you don't know what you're doing, that's not a good idea.
exactly.
There's a little more to it than just
Hmm.
like the intellectual. Even in a car, you've got a gas pedal, you got a brake pedal, and you got a steering wheel. It's like that's all you need to know, right?
Hmm.
No, that's not all you need to know. There's a little more to it than that.
Yeah,
You've got to deal with the actual, maneuvering the car itself, and then being accountable for everything else that's going on around you, right?
absolutely. Yep,
Same thing. You have a firearm. Just having it isn't enough. You have to actually know how to use the thing.
exactly.
You need to be situationally aware, and you need to know all of the rules, everything that you can and can't do.
Yep.
You know.
like thumb safeties, for example, right? Like a
Yeah.
lot of firearms, like some don't come with thumb safeties and some do. Like
Mhm.
for the people who were to buy a gun and didn't, they're like, oh, like I want all these extra safety measures. But then they pull it out in the time that they need it and it doesn't go bang
Right.
because they don't know how to turn off the safety.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what was the whole point of you buying this gun?
Yeah.
You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
and get the reps in, get the practice in, like because you need it. Like it's absolutely 100% needed.
Mhm.
Um, but it's also something right now that feels like it's not wanted because
Mhm.
obviously there's so many people that are like anti anti 2A. They're just like, I don't need that or like whatever. Like,
Right.
but then you get the people who are like, oh, we live in a constitutional carry state. Like, why do I need my CCW? I was like, well, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it,
Right.
right? And then you have the people that are that way. They're like, I don't need it, right? I was like, all right, dude, go to school, pick up your kid, bro.
Yeah.
I dare you. Go to, like, and watch
Yeah.
what happens next if you decide to
Mhm.
freaking go out and carry it out.
Right.
Um, and that's one of the biggest things too. A lot of people ask like, well, why do I need it? I was like, first off, I was like, do you have kids? And then they're like, well, yeah. I was like, well, you can't carry within like 100, 300 yards of your school, right? Like, no, I didn't know that. I was like, well, yeah. I was like, if you have your CCW, you can.
Right.
But there's like, there's limitations to that. So, or bars and grills, dude. A lot of people have to go to bars and grills. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't have your CCW, you can't enter the establishment, like whatsoever.
Right.
And then, but if you do, like, you need to make. This is where, like, now that I'm been sober almost a year now, right?
Mhm.
That's one of those things where like I don't have to think twice about it, right? I can enter an establishment knowing that I'm not going to partake in alcohol.
Right.
But for people who want to, like, they have to make that sound, clear, concise decision. Like,
Right.
am I gonna drink right now or am I not? If not, I gotta put this thing away. So that way I'm not trying to look at a felony,
Right.
on my record.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Uh, Even the idea of like, there are small details that not everybody knows.
absolutely.
You can use a firearm to protect yourself. You can protect somebody else who is in harm,
Hmm.
in danger, that sort of thing. What you can't do is you can't use it to stop somebody from stealing your car.
Hmm.
You can't use a gun to
There's yeah,
protect property. You
like
know,
dogs, like pets,
you know,
dude. So that was another thing that like when I moved out here, I had heard about that and I was just like, I understand it, but at the same time, like for the state to consider like an animal a property, I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, it's like there's for some people that's way more than just
Oh
property.
yeah,
Like Sergio, Sergio loves his dog, right?
right,
Um, and I guarantee you that's family, that's not property.
right.
You know what I mean? Like
Uh,
our dogs, like they're family, not property.
yeah. Fortunately, the law doesn't quite see it that way.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
So
that's just something again people need to be aware of.
mm,
So the education that they're getting from going through those courses is valuable, and it's definitely something they should do.
yeah.
Like a lot of things, I don't by any means think it should be mandated,
Hmm.
but I really do think it's a good idea. It's just for their own edification, right?
Absolutely.
So aside from those classes, like what other sort of things do you focus on?
Um, so we just expanded out to emergency first aid fundamentals,
Okay,
that curriculum. So the cool thing about the other devil dog, or one of the other devil dogs I have on my team, is he did a small stint in the Marines and then transferred over to the Navy.
okay,
So he became a Navy corpsman. So what we would like to start doing and incorporating is like a tactical medic like curriculum that he's
okay,
currently kind of working on
right.
to kind of do some simulations at the range
Hmm.
of like possibly blood loss stuff like that. That way we can kind of incorporate and people kind of at the same time put people under stressful situations,
Hmm.
but in a safe environment, knowing that like hey like what are you gonna do to help save this person's life if you ever have to like you
Right,
know don some gear and then actually
right.
uh get in the shit.
Hmm.
um and then I want to get more of the USCCA curriculum. Like I want to take the AR fundamentals curriculum because
Right,
I heard Josh like took it and it was intense, and I was
right,
like, I really want to take that course now. um, but anything rifle related, I do privately right now, but we'll do pistol courses, stuff like that.
right,
Um, and then that's just everything firearm related right
right.
right now.
Hmm.
eventually the goal is to kind of have a storefront similar to this.
Hmm.
Um, Kind of do like an armor type thing with our company. You know, have
Yeah,
people like
could be a
do
good thing.
cleanings and stuff like that for people
Right.
uh, down the road, right? Stepping stones,
Hmm.
as any business should have, right? Uh, yeah, that's it in regards to firearms. But I'm
Hmm.
I'm a man of many trades, so yeah, we talked about smoking meat earlier, so
Right. Yeah. Um, so I was trying to think because like we both work in corrections.
yeah,
Obviously, you work on a different facet than I do because I'm
yes,
dealing with like actual inmates
like state.
on a sex offender yard, right?
Mhm,
And it's through the state. So, but with you, you were talking earlier about like the things that you deal with.
mhm.
Do you cover that again?
Yeah. So being that I work for a company that's contracted by DHS, so Department of Homeland Security, um, we receive an intake and outtake of the illegals that come in like from across the border, processes them, um, and then ICE makes that determination. You know, DHS makes a determination, depending if they have requests in or not, whether or not they want to seek asylum,
Hmm.
or we're sending them back across the border or whatever. So
Right.
this is kind of like in a nutshell what I work
Hmm.
with. Um, I will say that sometimes that job tugs on the moral strings a little bit.
Right.
Uh, but I mean, I took the job because I needed to pay the bills, right?
Hmm.
Again, the business doesn't fully, cover everything,
Hmm.
but it definitely helped being a business owner plus,
Right.
taking on this job and stuff like that. So,
Hmm. I uh, I find myself in that place a little bit with DOC. I have more than once expressed my displeasure with the way that things are run. I try not to get too deep into it, or talk too much about the administration. But honestly, I think that a lot of the problems that DOC has come from the upper administration
mhm,
and the way that they're trying to run things. You have people that are unqualified, in my opinion, to to really make decisions at the level that they're making it.
yeah,
So they've made decisions with maximum custody. These are the guys that are one step down from Hannibal Lecter. They don't come out of their
jeez,
cells unless they're fully restrained,
hmm,
hands and feet, have at least one escort with them, sometimes two,
yeah,
you know, and making decisions that allow them to like be out of their cells unattended
hmm,
with no security, has increased the number of staff assaults. It has increased, just the inmate on inmate violence. There's these things that happen as a result of their decision making, and they're not viewing it through the lens of somebody who's actually there on the front line and dealing with the
yeah,
situation. They're making it from an office someplace, and in their mind, they're doing this for, to treat them more civilly, more to give them more of something that they think is going to help them be rehabilitated. But you're talking about people by and large, and
yeah,
this is not an absolute, but a lot of these guys that are in those places are there for a reason.
yeah,
They are
absolutely.
not capable of dealing or functioning on a daily basis as a regular person.
Hmm. So I think when it comes to like that, right? Like I think that's where like we're like on two different scales, two like
Hmm.
grand scales. Like so I you deal with definitely like multiple time offenders, murderers and stuff like that. Every now and then we'll get one of those people,
Hmm.
but when they come into our custody, like they're not combative. They're just like,
Hmm.
you know, it's just another system. Let me get through the process, and either they send me back or I get
Yeah.
sent somewhere else.
Right.
Um, and we're actually across the street, almost literally across the street from DOC.
Hmm.
So um, I'm trying to remember the name of the facility off the top of my head. Like all I know is it's FCC. Um, so yeah, every now and then, like usually our higher level kind of detainees that come in, we'll dress them out, hold on to their property, and then we send them across the street.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, man,
Yeah.
it's I don't want to say it's not what I expected, but it's also like coming from working in IT, right?
Right.
To this, they definitely wanted to kind of be run kind of very militaristic, kind of like logbooks and all that stuff, right?
Right.
But at the same time, it's like you said, there's people in higher places that kind of get put there just because of like their time,
Hmm.
right? Not knowing, like, coming from like the bottom, like me and you, right?
Right.
Be like, hey, why don't we put someone who's actually been here for a while and actually understands how the system works, and
Right.
who's actually had to work with someone like this before, or having to deal with this, inmate, detainee, whatever. Like, let's let him call the shots because he knows what's going on.
Hmm.
But seeing it from your perspective, right? Like working, like how you said, like on a sex offender yard, like morally, I can see where it's like, bro, like I just want to,
Yeah.
throw chingazos and just be like,
Right.
so. But like I said, yeah, for me, like it's kind of similar whenever like
Hmm.
whenever we don't send them back, in some cases, right? Like I'll get a little bit into it, but like at the same time, like taking them to like welcome centers and like letting them go, giving them like the $4,000 that the government gives them, a cell phone, and it's just that's some of the heart wrenching stuff
Hmm.
because we'll see like their past and be like, why are we letting this guy on the street?
Hmm.
Like Phoenix is already bad enough. Like why are we adding
Right.
to the chaos?
Hmm.
So yeah, it's just
Yeah.
it can be gut wrenching sometimes.
So I was reading an article earlier about the DACA individuals
Mhm.
that were allowed to stay in the States
Yeah,
and how 80% of them had uh, criminal records. It's like this isn't a good idea.
hmm
I understand people wanting, and there are some people that actually do come to this country because they're trying to like make better lives for themselves. They do
yeah,
something better.
absolutely. And I'm all for the ones that are
Yeah.
they're seeking asylum. They want to like
Right.
do good and stuff like that. Like I'm all for that.
Right.
But it's the ones that you know that aren't like seeking to change and stuff like that,
Mhm.
right? Those are the ones where I'm like,
Yeah.
why did we just let this guy go?
Right.
So,
You have like lots of criminals that are from lots of different parts of South America
mhm.
that are coming into this country, and they're not coming here for a better life. They're coming here for a new playground to operate in.
It's all over TikTok, man. You
Yeah.
see it all the time. Um, off of that Sean Ryan show,
Hmm.
uh, that lady was pretty much saying that TikTok is basically a trafficking platform that they use now. It's not even really social media for people to connect. It's more for people to kind of show where they're at and then kind of almost in a sense like, here, come here because this is where it's going to be easy for us to do the bad things that we want to do.
Hmm.
And right now, supposedly it passed, I think, the House, right? The bill to ban TikTok.
Right.
Um, and now it needs to pass the Senate, and then next is Dirty Joe's desk. So we'll see, man. We'll see if he has the goals to fucking make it happen, right?
Right.
But at the same time, um, a lot of people are going to be hurting once it gets taken down
Right.
because a lot of people try to monetize off of it. A
Hmm.
lot of people, their living comes off of TikTok,
Right.
and it's going to be those what is it, the Gen Xers, right?
Hmm.
The newer generations that are the Gen Z's that are going to be hurting because that's
Yeah.
all they do, right? They sit in their corner, sit at home, make videos that other people have already made 5 million times.
Yeah.
Um, they make their living off of that, because there's no original content anymore. Um, so they're the ones that are going to be hurting the most because and so to tie back into like my military, and we're talking about how like the military is supposed to be like our fighting forces, right?
Hmm.
There was one TikTok that I saw where a guy was like, I couldn't join the military. It's like, the grenade, like I'd be so like hyped up with anxiety that like I couldn't even throw a grenade. And I was like, please don't join the military. Don't
Right.
don't ever say you're gonna join the military. I was like, don't waste your time
Yeah.
because like you're not gonna make it.
Hmm. Yeah.
But
So like when you're doing your classes and things like that, given kind of our current situation, the number of Biden illegals that have come into the country, and knowing that so many, like tens of thousands of those are like military age men, right?
oh Mhm.
You know,
Oh, after this, we'll talk some.
you know, there's a huge potential for maybe not 9/11 level of terrorist activity. There are certainly things that I think are going to happen prior to the election. So when you're talking to people not only about kind of like the things that they need to know to carry openly or concealed, however they're going to do that, do you kind of mention any of those things or
So yeah, so one of the big questions we ask all of our students when we start classes, like, hey, like we'll go around like a round robin and be like, hey, like, so why did you just, or actually whenever people call me and like trying to sign up for classes, I was like, so I'm like, hey, like, Rico, I'm like, why now? Why did you decide all of a sudden now is the time to sign up for class, or why is now the time that you decided you wanted to buy a gun for the first time? Like, can you tell me that? Like, and there's only been one instance where I've kind of like I don't want to say denied someone class, but more like I didn't really follow up for her to sign up because her intentions were every time I go walking around, there's a dog that's always barking at us and me and my dog. So basically her intent was more for like, let me shoot this other dog that's annoying the crap out of me. And I was like, I'm not I can't feel like I can't let you into my class because
right?
like you have in my eyes was malintent,
Hmm.
right? Um But a lot of the times the answer is like times are getting bad. Like it's scary out there. Like I felt like I need to do this now.
Hmm.
And like there would be times when I'll be like, well, why not before? Like and then they'd be like, just because I felt like the world isn't as crazy as it is today.
Hmm.
So, and I was like, well, let's get you signed up, let's get you ready, let's get you trained.
Right.
So yeah, so usually um in class, yeah, we'll kind of do that same round robin and be like, hey, like all of y'all, like, so my first all female CCW class,
Hmm.
I did a round robin. I was like, hey, so I was like, let's go around, let's introduce ourselves, let's, kind of understand why. Like, one lady was like, I bought a gun and it's still in the packaging.
Right.
And then the other one, was like, times are tough. And then one of them was like, my husband's deployed and it's just me and my kids. And like, I wanted something to defend myself and
Hmm.
be ready and be knowledgeable. So it's like awesome. I was like, so all of y'all are here for like almost the same reason because y'all don't want to be a victim. Y'all don't want to be left alone, and you want to be able to handle yourself accordingly if anything, if shit hits the fan.
Right.
So I helped kind of embrace that bond within all the ladies to trying to help them, like be like, hey,
Hmm.
it's okay, right? Like we're all here for the same reason, to learn, to teach and how to properly defend ourselves whenever we're pushed to that line.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so I'll try and like bring it up, right? Hey, times are crazy out there, and actually every class I have two scenarios that I bring up. One scenario was when me and my family were at Walmart in the Coolidge Walmart. There was a young gentleman that I felt was following us,
Hmm.
or at least coincidentally happened to be almost around every single freaking corner
Right.
that I was like noticing. So at one point, I noticed he was in front of us, probably about like a lane or two. And he cut over to the side. Well, my wife had just it was in front of me. My wife and kids were in front of me, and they just cut into that lane
Hmm.
uh, right before the one he turned into. Well, instead, I beat feet to the lane like we had just passed, went all the way basically to the front, and basically like caught eyes with him and like kind of like was in a standstill with this dude.
Hmm.
And then he realized like basically like, hey bro, like I'm staring at you. I got you. It was like,
Right.
what are you doing? And then he kind of like beat feet and took off. Well, we're we're calling it at the store. We're at the cash register and I noticed this guy standing over by the ends of the cash registers where like people like to hang out, where the jewelry normally is, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I see him. I was like, hey babe, like, are you almost done or whatever? Like, either drop the stuff and let's go, or let's just hurry up.
Hmm.
Well, she had just rang the car, so I was like, okay, let's go, hurry up. And I look back and the dude's gone, and I realize he's outside by the front on a cell phone, and I was like, so regardless of whether or not it could have been something or not,
Hmm.
uh, color codes of awareness, right? The Cooper
Right.
color code. So I went from like a yellow to orange real quick,
Right.
to the point where like I had my EDC bag open, ready, like enough to the point where I could access my firearm if I needed to, but I wasn't gonna reach it and I wasn't gonna throw any flags, right? Because the whole point of orange is just to be like steadfast.
Right.
So that's one instance, right? The other instance, my wife was with my daughter at the Casa Grande Walmart,
Hmm.
and Casa Grande has been very known to have a lot of human trafficking. Uh, to the point where she went with my daughter and they paid for everything, but while they were walking around, my wife said that she noticed the same guy basically on the phone following her. So by the time she paid and everything, she noticed he was waiting like near the front, in a sense, still with the cell phone in his hand. And immediately as she left the store, she ran and beat feet to the freaking to the SUV. Told my daughter to just get in, lock the door. As
Hmm.
she loaded everything, she immediately jumped in and then saw and said she noticed a guy come near the driver's side door, uh, like basically like brushing against the SUV, like the same guy that was like following her. So I was like, I'm glad you did that.
Right.
All right, but these are the two stories I tell everyone's like, hey, like situational awareness,
Right.
understanding like what's around you and knowing like how this class can help save your life.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. So, like in Josh's class, he does uh, the use of force class, and they use like a virtual simulator for
yeah.
this. Have you gone through that yet?
I want to. I actually want
Yeah.
to. My next purchase for the company is to buy the laser ammo smokeless range that comes with like use of force simulator, like virtual range and stuff like
Nice.
that, so we can start doing stuff like that too.
Right. Yeah. So far, in my experience, that's been the most impressive technology. It allows people to be immersed in a situation that they otherwise might not be,
Yeah,
um, but without using
I've
an
used
actual firearm.
I've used the ones that C2 has.
Hmm.
Because me and one of my instructors actually went to the USCCA like members night,
Right.
and we actually one of their nights they actually have one of the simulators for people to use.
Okay.
Those are pretty intense scenarios,
Yeah,
man.
they
One
are.
of them was a school shooting scenario. The one my so I've been to that simulator twice. One situation I was going through a back alley to work,
Hmm.
right? Supposedly I go through this back alley all the time or side door. Then all of a sudden you hear gunshots. Oh, he's got a gun. He's got a gun. And then there's a guy that comes out of that side entryway. I believe with an AK and body armor.
Oh, wow.
Um, and at first, supposedly the scenario, he puts the rifle down. The other scenario, like he presents it right. Well, he presented it to me, and I'm trained military to
Right.
two in the chest, one in the head. Well, being that I noticed the body armor, I did two in the pelvis and then one in the head.
Okay.
Um, but it was like it was crazy, you know. It was just like because even then, even though it's a simulator, even though it's not real,
Hmm.
like it, your adrenaline does get pumping.
Yeah.
Um, and then the other scenario I was put in was I was at a bank, um, just doing my stuff, just either deposit, withdrawal, whatever. And some guy comes in like a top coat, basically like a long coat.
Hmm.
I don't know if he had a shotgun or whatever, but he was pretty much like armored up too. And like, hey, let the scenario play. I was like, okay, cool.
Right.
Well, he comes in. I was like, hey, put the gun down, put the gun down. Um, and then he turns towards me, presents the shotgun, whatever, and then apparently my first shot took him out in the dome, and all of a sudden I see like the remnants of the blood on the wall, whatever,
Right.
and then like he just goes down. I was like, cool. Like I wasn't expecting that. I was just trying to
Right.
take him down,
Yeah.
but I was just like, awesome. I was
Yeah.
like, um, I forget. Yeah, I forget the one that John went through. John went through another one, but yeah, um, yeah, like, those are pretty cool. Yeah, definitely want to start incorporating those too as
Right.
well in the South Valley.
There we go. Yeah, like I said, in my experience, that's probably the most valuable training. Like even like the firearm safety and those sorts of things, that's important stuff, right?
Mhm.
But being immersed in that sort of situation because you don't know what you're going to do until you're there. Everybody
Yeah,
cognitively thinks, "Well, I'm
it's gonna
capable
be the
of
same
this."
thing over and over again.
It's
Yeah,
like I know what to do in a situation
mhm,
until the situation is happening, right?
absolutely.
I've seen other self-defense classes where they Um, somebody is like doing a scenario where they're like a woman is pumping gas
Hmm.
and somebody is approaching them, and getting too close and, getting, violating their space and is presenting a real threat,
Yeah.
and some of the reactions that these people give, you know, they'll stand there and just like openly talk to them rather than trying to create distance or,
Hmm.
putting themselves in a better advantage, position.
Absolutely.
And those are the things. It's like you don't understand how you're going to react until you're actually in that situation.
Yep.
And if you don't sort of practice those things, at least at the very least on a mental level, it's like play what if games. They teach us this in DOC,
Hmm.
always be playing a what if game. Like, what if
Yes.
this guy,
Exactly.
becomes a threat? What if this guy is doing something else? How you're going to react. You have to start thinking forward and be situationally aware so that you can be at least semi ready for those situations.
Yeah, like de-escalation is definitely a thing, and it's a good thing to do. But when it comes to like when there's a closing distance, the escalation kind of like goes out the window,
Right.
right? So now it's like the closer the distance is, like all right, now I'm probably gonna have to throw hands or something.
Mhm.
Um, which is why like I'm glad like the Marine Corps taught me like knife techniques, disarmament and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But that's one thing too that we want to kind of start incorporating. And I talked with La Rosa. I talked with I can't remember.
Nick LaRosa.
Yeah, Nick. Um,
Awesome guy.
about probably seeing like what we could do. I know he's a busy man, but he said he'd be willing to do like one or two classes like for us or whatever like that. So I need to retouch bases with him and see what we can do
Right.
down there because I know there's a new dojo that opened up.
Mhm.
I think it's called Bad Aces Jiu-Jitsu
Okay.
in Coolidge. So I was thinking about working with them too and see what we can do to kind of get some ground game
Right.
like hand to hand defense like
Yeah.
going. Um, incorporating that somehow in our curriculum and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Um, but yeah, man. Oh,
Yeah.
like and getting off the line, right? A lot of people. That's
Right.
another thing too. Is and I'm with my pistol courses and stuff like that. Is we like to teach people like, hey, get off the line,
Mhm.
like because if you stay on the X, like you're gonna get hurt. And a lot of people don't understand that. Hey, like not only getting off the X can save you time and space,
Right.
uh, but you're not like sitting duck,
Right.
right? So
Yeah. Don't become the deer in the headlight.
yeah,
But yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of valuable lessons that people need to learn.
absolutely,
I think that it's definitely, even though they can be expensive, some of these things, right?
yeah,
It's worth the money to be doing. I mean, think about all
absolutely.
the money that people are spending on shit that they don't need.
Yes.
Like how much do you pay for that Starbucks coffee, and how much are you paying for,
Yeah,
you
you
know,
want some coffee with your creamer, bro?
yeah. There's a lot of things if you stop and think about it that you're spending X amount of money on that you probably don't need to. That,
Yeah.
A is probably better for you if you didn't, and B,
I
that
mean,
could be put
pers-
someplace else.
perspective, right?
Right.
Because like a lot of people can the anti-gunners would be like, "Oh, like you don't need all those guns." A lot of people like you just need one. Like you don't need
Right.
5 million, right? I
Yeah.
was like, well, my 5 million are probably gonna last me way longer than your just one.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So that's an argument that I hear a lot. You don't need this or that, right?
hmm
Okay, you don't need anything. You need food, shelter.
hmm
That's about it. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, once all of those needs are met, everything else is superficial. You know, Nobody needs golf clubs. Nobody needs a car. Nobody
yeah,
needs, like X. You just keep going on and on with that list,
hmm
right? Those are things that are conveniences or just things that we want,
like
right?
whenever you tell people you've been prepping for like
Yeah.
a year or two, like, or you have like dry food to last you like 25
Mhm.
years. They're like, what? Like, why would you have that? Like, why
Well,
wouldn't I?
well, why don't you ask the victims of Katrina? That's
Yes.
like, how much preparation did they do? How much would that have been of value for them?
It's funny. It's funny you say that because that's actually in our curriculum, right?
Yeah,
To be like, hey, like, would you rather be able to protect you and your family now, or wait till they get past all the debris and then finally make it 4, 6 hours later and think,
right.
oh, we're here to help, like,
Yeah.
you know?
So yeah,
So
again, things that people just need to think about, and
yeah,
like I said, I think that it's a worthwhile investment to take training to seek these things out.
absolutely.
And the more in depth and involved that it is only going to make you better,
Yep.
So going to the range and shooting, that it has its own value. You definitely want to do that. You want to be able to hit your target.
Hmm.
That's important, right? but there has to be other aspects besides that.
Like the people, like don't get me wrong, like having a good mag dump every now and then is fun,
Yeah.
right? But then like the ones that purposefully make the videos and then shoot at nothing,
Hmm.
like I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
Right.
why are you wasting all that ammo? Like, you're wasting all that time. Like you could have been productive doing letting off all those rounds, right?
Yeah.
Like, but a lot of people like I've seen lately people doing the reviews over pistols and
Hmm.
like just mag dumping. It's like, how can you accurately say like you tested this firearm
Yeah.
without actually accurately hitting something? Like you're just like, oh man, the recoil feels nice, like
Uh-huh.
feels good in my hands, like
Right.
like against what, dude?
Yeah. Where's the actual value in that?
Yes.
Other than fun. Fun is its own thing,
Yes, exactly. Like
by
you
all
said, like a
means.
good mag dump every now and then, like when you're just like, I need to lay down some hate and discontent, like cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I feel like every range trip should come with like a small, like
Right.
small training session. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like let me make sure I'm still good. I'm like
Right.
my P's and Q's and everything like that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Hey, you want to do a reenactment of like Predator and have six guys line up and just unload everything they've got
yeah,
for 2 minutes? By all means.
at least put some infinity targets out there, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like at least I know I can verify I hit something with
Right.
that spray.
Yeah. You know. So yeah, it's its own thing. Uh, what other kind of things do you foresee kind of in the future? Like, I know that you're a religious person,
yeah.
a spiritual person, and I'm sure that you probably don't incorporate that into the training necessarily. But at the same time, I think that, and this is another thing, I think that as a country we've moved a little too far away from that,
Mm-hmm.
and people need to find that sort of center again.
Hmm.
And so I don't know if you ever had thought about having your own sort of curriculum that has to deal with that, not necessarily in relation to firearms, but just on its own.
So there's the counter to the mass shooter
Hmm.
curriculum that USCCA has too.
Hmm.
I definitely want to aim that towards like churches, synagogues, stuff like that.
Hmm.
People of like religious like where there's a mass bringing, like talking to security teams at churches and stuff like that.
Right.
But and some of my instructors pray with me too when every time we have a class, right before class starts or we're setting up, we'll set a time and we'll pray. We'll be like, hey, Lord, we pray that we come to you today and ask that you please allow all those that come in to come as an open book. They come, they learn, and they absorb, and they can leave better than when they came.
Hmm.
Um, and when we go to the range, we pray a blanket, like for a blanket of protection over the range for not only for us there, but for everyone else who's there too. People who aren't even with our class.
Right.
You allow them to leave there safely to go home to their loved ones and stuff like that. So, that's something we do every single time, man.
Right.
Um, and you notice too, I'm pretty sure you've seen like a lot of our storyline nowadays. Almost every day I'm trying to put something,
Right.
spiritual there for the husband or for the single dad, for just the man or for the wife, like something to bring us closer to God, but at the same time to help people who are lost and be like, you know what, let me open the good book again and see
Right.
if you know even I know it's going to change their life, right? But for their perspective, like let me see if like I read something I didn't read before, or receive something I didn't receive before that I thought I missed,
Hmm.
to help them kind of like find their way back. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Yeah. So I myself am agnostic, so I'm not like totally religious,
mhm,
but I do see the value of it. I
yeah,
think that it's something that people can take something from it, even if they're not fully invested into being religious, right?
absolutely, yeah,
You can listen to, a verse, a proverb, and take away some sort of meaning, a life lesson out of that, if you take the time to at least listen,
mm.
you know?
Like
So,
my wife recently showed me, and or not, she showed me before, but it kind of set my mind,
mhm.
and then she sent it over text one night. Uh, when I was checking my phone during my break, uh, what was it? The Bible stands for like basic instructions before leaving Earth.
There you go.
So
Right on.
So yeah, if anything, the good book should help those who aren't hardcore believers, right? That I guess haven't fully succumbed to the point that Jesus is their Lord and Savior, right? That He gave up their life for them. That at least turns into like kind of like a moral guidebook. That
Mhm.
understand like, hey, like you may have been living a life of sin, or maybe if you change your ways just by this much, tithing, giving, or at least having an open or a grateful heart, like you can understand, like your life can be so much better.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. So I think that again, there's a lot of value in that.
mhm,
And I think that some people are so either because of the way they've been brought up or just because their own experiences, they're so against that idea that they've closed off their minds. They're no longer willing to even hear the message.
yeah,
Just because you hear the message doesn't mean you're going to all of a sudden become an evangelist for any religion
yeah,
or something like that.
absolutely,
You
yeah,
can listen and
hmm,
still be okay, you know?
absolutely, yeah,
Um, so again, I think that there's value in that. I think that that along with the breakdown of the nuclear family is a huge part of why so many negative things are happening in this
yes,
country.
absolutely,
So those are things that need to change, and we
hmm,
need to help bring people back to that. So, you know, again, just the little bits that you do put out there, I think that there's a lot of value in that. I appreciate it,
yeah.
you know,
Thank you.
and I think that you should definitely continue with that.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
thank you.
but I definitely want to be respectful of your time. I know we've been here for a little while.
I
Um,
mean,
you
I'm
know,
grateful to be here, man.
yeah,
It's not something you get asked to be on a podcast,
right.
and I know that only even bigger things are going to come after this. So,
Mhm. Yeah. So, like I said, we've been kind of communicating. We've like collaborated a little bit on social media, and like I know who you are, and I follow the things that you do,
mhm.
but we've never actually sat together
Yeah,
in the
this is
same
the
space and
first
like
time.
had a
Yeah,
conversation. So, this was kind of an opportunity to do that, but also to kind of help share what you've got going on, and again, hopefully people will take something valuable away from this.
yeah, absolutely. I
So,
appreciate it. Thank you.
absolutely. So. I'm looking forward to talking to you more in person now that we're
Okay,
on that page.
yeah.
And we'll kind of go from there. So
Well, next time I smoke a brisket, I'll make sure to invite y'all over.
awesome. That would be fantastic. All right, then. So I will go ahead and end things there. Hopefully, we'll collaborate more in the future.
Absolutely.
And at some point, probably have you back on and talk more about where we're at.
Yeah, awesome.
What,
I appreciate that.
all right, then.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Thank
And
you, man.
we're going to wrap it up.
All
So
right.
bye, everybody. Thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, you can now support the Non Victim Nation by donating via listener support directly on Spotify. Remember, the story of your life is being written right now, and you are the hero.